Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Sarah Khumalo, your host for Because It's There, a podcast that looks at leadership, a podcast that emanates from the answer that George Mallory gave. Why climb Everest? Because it's there. Why be a leader? Why be great? Because in spite of everything, we are leaders. We are great. We are individually uniquely extraordinary, and being ordinary is a choice. And every time we do an episode, we look for amazing people that have done amazing things and to share their stories, their insights. And this week is not any different. I've got none other than Zureida Ebrahim that I'm going to introduce to you, who's my training partner and a friend. Zureida, welcome to Because It's There.
Hi, Sarah. It's really great to see you with all the remote working and remote training going on. I don't get to do that too often these days. So it's lovely to be here and be in conversation with you today.
Absolutely. So, to break the ice with this episode, I'm going to ask you a question. It's not really a question. I'm going to say a statement, and I would like you to finish it in a way that you see fit. Change has made me learn something new about myself, and that is
That regardless of my capacity for change, one can't really escape the process. We all go through the cycles. And I certainly have been doing a lot of that lately.
that's interesting. We all can't escape the cycle or the process. Hmm. That's something that is insightful. What do you mean? Can you build on that a little bit more? What's the process?
So so look, I think like we've often heard it referred to as the five stages of change or the five stages of transformation. Some people refer to it as the five stages of grief because there's a lot of similarity. But when one goes through a change, there really is a process that one has to go through in order to get to the other side, in order to grow through it. So it's not something that actually I think one goes through. I think it's something that one grows through. So I certainly have made some very big changes recently regarding my job and place of work and career and so forth. And I have a seriously healthy appetite for change. And I found myself not being able to escape any of the stages. In fact, sometimes I felt myself going through all five stages in a single day, and then starting again the next day, somewhere in between. So it really is about like giving yourself the time to go through the process, to understand the change, um, to negotiate the new circumstances with yourself, actually. And then you go through a process of acceptance, but you can't escape the process of grief for what you're leaving behind. And finally you do get to a point of excitement and joy for what you're about to embark on, or whatever new chapter lies ahead for you. So that's really what I was referring to. But I think somewhere in me I thought, you love change, so I didn't really think about like this process that I have to go through. And yeah, but I'm happy to say that I'm at the excitement stage already.
Fantastic. I'm excited with you. Absolutely very proud of the step that you've taken and wishing you all the best, but we will get into that. So the podcast today is really titled Service is a Virtue. And before I get to that, I want to go into Zureida as a mother, Zureida as a daughter, as a sister, who you are at home. So there are many sexist, prejudiced views projected on women and girl children globally. It's not unique to Africa. One of those challenges faced is that women, especially those of color, are often cut out of life building events such as access to decent education. But you have not experienced that. You've had access to many opportunities and have a daughter that's enrolled in a tertiary institution. Tell us how the belief in the feminine was fostered in your home, starting from Lesotho in Lenasia and where you are today as you're growing and becoming Zureida Ebrahim today.
So I think my journey, when you say I've had access to many opportunities, I think I think these opportunities are a result of like many things coming together. Not just It's not just hard work. It's hard work, but it's also luck, but it's not just luck. Um, it's also character. But it's not just character, it's also competence. So I really feel that like these opportunities um like come as a result of um uh, all of these things coming together. As I talk to you, I'm reminded of a quote, and actually I may not say it exactly as it is, but it goes like something like, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I actually think it was from a golfer, Gary Player. I think I may not be right, but I think that a lot of it is there's luck, but there's also a lot of effort. I think that goes into not just creating opportunity, but taking advantage of the opportunities that we do find. And like what I'll say right up front is that it is true that not everyone has always had access to equal opportunity, and that's really the challenges of our history, and I think what we all are working hard to change, for not just for ourselves but for our children, like you say. I have been very fortunate to grow up in a family that valued diversity, that valued education, um, that valued hard work, and where I was raised to believe that I could be anything I wanted to be. Is that it really was, it was part of every single thing, every single day. My mother was quite old fashioned. Like, if I use she took that word can't very literally. So she just kept saying, in this house there's no word like can't. And so is that the only constraint in achieving anything is how I think about it. And I was raised to really truly believe that. I was also raised to believe that there's nothing that I can't do that maybe my brother or my dad could do, or any other boy for that matter. I was the oldest daughter. I have two other sisters, and I have an older brother. My grandmother also lived with us, so I lived in a household where, like, there was filled with women. So in this household, women cooked, they mowed the lawn, they did the finances, they organized the holidays. So like I grew up thinking that there's absolutely nothing that women can't do. My dad also played a role, my brother also played a role, but there was nothing that I thought that they could do that maybe I couldn't. And so it was really part of my everyday upbringing. And I think I didn't realize at the time how truly privileged I was, to be raised in a home where my parents believed. My mother wanted my brother to be a doctor, but she also wanted a daughter to be a doctor. And she held the same ambitions. I didn't end up being a doctor. We can talk about that just now, but the point is, she held the same ambitions for both of us. She didn't believe that I needed to be something different because I was female, or that he needed to be something different because he was male.
Zureida, thank you for that insightful answer, and taking us from your upbringing into your home. But I want to hone into you as a parent today, as a mother of a diverse home. So for our listeners and our viewers, Zureida has both Indian as well as white children in her home, boys and girls, well, girl and boys in her home. So I want to hone in on that and say, and ask what values you are enforcing in your children, and what role do you believe parents in general have in fostering a new world that is accepting of diversity as well as inclusion.
So I suppose when you're in the situation, you almost don't. We don't describe it as literally as you maybe have just described it, because we're in it. and we have the opportunity to see the person before we see anything else. We have the opportunity to to discover who we are, to discover what we're all interested in, to discover the dreams and the passions and the values of each other before we even look at, well, you look different. And I suppose that's what's different in a home than outside, is that once we step outside of the situation, we often judge people from the outside because there's actually a lack of information, because we don't know what those people that we see from the outside, we don't always know what they value. We don't always know what their passions are. We don't always know what their talents are. And the problem is sometimes we stop there. We stop with what we can see in front of us. And actually we like, why? Or sometimes we make the mistake of making assumptions, about what people can do based on those external factors that we can see. Sometimes we put people in boxes based on the external factors that we can see. But I think to go back to your question around how we juggle this blended family and the diversity, I think it's really just allowing each of us to be the individuals that we are, really embracing each other for the differences that we bring to the family. And I think my husband has a line that he often throws at us, is that things are just easier when you live and you let live. When you live out your true beliefs and values, but you allow everyone else that you interact with the same privilege, to let them live out their beliefs and their values. And so I think we've definitely had funny moments, we've had tough moments, but we certainly, I think, are better for it.
Absolutely. I love that. And thank you for sharing that, Zureida. It's very insightful, and it's a good way of looking at things, where we look at people not on face value. They say don't judge a book by its cover. I think whoever came up with that was absolutely right. It's knowing the individuals that will change our perspective and how we interact with them. And I want to move back into your career, service as a virtue. But starting with 17 years at Momentum Metropolitan Holdings, when did you first realize that financial services was your calling? Because 17 years in financial services and you're moving on to another big role in a financial institution. When did you realize that, financial services was your calling?
So that's like a really interesting question for me. I don't think I ever would have described it to anyone as, financial services is my calling. And maybe, like I said at the start of the call, when you said the theme of today's conversation is service as a virtue, I think that what it made me think about is actually that has been my calling, is in service of customers. My calling is, as if that's the word we're going to use to describe it, is like what I fell in love with is the opportunity to continually do more and more to help customers achieve the goals that they set for themselves. And in fact, I started in customer service. I started this career. It had nothing to do with my academic background. I studied law and economics, and somehow found myself, in a very customer world. And I think for me, I think that there's always, firstly, the work is endless when it comes to customers. Okay, is that it's like I don't think any organization ever arrives, because there's always more that we can do to make it easier for customers to do business with us, easier for customers to get value out of the products and solutions, the use of any organization. And maybe like the simplest thing is make it easier for the customer to understand, take away all the the effort involved in just trying to unravel what financial services is about. So that's where I'll get to financial services. I think like why I've stuck it out and I feel like I've still got so much more to do in financial services, is because I think that like financial services can be quite a complex thing. And we sometimes like it sometimes feels like it's only for people who have a commerce degree or some kind of financial degree, to understand. And actually it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. And I think we have a role to play in talking to clients in language that they can understand, so that they can make the right decisions for themselves and they can get involved in their own finances, but also so that they can use, whether they use advisors or other professional services, so they can use them in a way that they are empowered to ask the right questions about their own financial futures. So these are the things that I've become excited about, making it easy for clients to do things, making it easy for clients to understand things, making it easy for clients to actually move from buying products, but to actually achieving their goals that they set out to. And I think something that I'm still very deeply passionate about is finding a way to get clients involved in their own financial lives. And I really don't believe that we've cracked that one as an industry. How do we make it so that clients provide clients with the right content or education, if you want to call it that, but then the right tools for them to really understand it and get involved in their own financial lives. Like I think that is when I don't think it is something that one can 100% outsource, or something that one can expect someone else to do 100% on your behalf. I think you've got to be involved, because I think your financial goals are so attached to your life goals. And so I think that helping clients get involved so that their financial goals become more achievable is something that I am deeply, deeply passionate about.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Wow. So service as a virtue and service as your calling, and not necessarily financial services. You're actually spot on. I should have picked that up in my interactions with you, in the journey that I've been privileged to share with you. When did you first realize? I mean, you said yourself you studied economics and law. When did you realize that service is actually something that you're passionate about, is your calling? Was this a quiet realization, or was this something that you just had to go through a process to get to that point where you decided, or you realized that this was something that you're passionate about and your calling per se?
Yeah, so I think over the years, it happens to be one of those things that I enjoy more and more. So the more I do it, the more interested I am in it. The more committed I get to wanting to like be involved in work that can truly make a difference. I think so I think it's something that definitely like it grew with time. But I think, Sarah, we're all customers, at the end of the day. And every time I have to fill out a form that makes no sense, or I have to fill out, a form of 8 pages, and I know the information is not used, or I'm faced with making, big decisions about my own financial life that I feel that I'm not equipped to make, I think, or I try to just get a view of all of my finances, and I find it difficult to see it all in one place. When I start as a client or customer, when I have those experiences, it makes me more energized to want to make a difference in those things, to make it easier for clients and to build products and solutions that are going to make it easier for clients to actually achieve their goals, and to find ways to leverage all of the advances in technology and analytics to give clients the tools to be able to do things whenever and wherever they want to do, or to use the analytics to help put the right things in front of clients. And so I think the more it's kind of the more you do, the more you want to do, kind of approach that I've actually experienced. And I think that the thing about financial services is, like, I think there's client service in all industries, and I think it's important, whether it's a public sector or a retail store, it's as important when it comes to service. But I've always felt that in financial services, we truly have an opportunity to impact people's lives. It's the kind of stuff that we do every day, help people achieve their life goals. It's getting that degree. It's protecting your family. It's it's growing and creating enough for fulfilling the life goals that you set out for yourself. And so I've always found it worthwhile to do it in that space. And yeah, so I would say it's something that grew over time. Definitely didn't wake up one day and go, I want to work for an insurer, or I didn't wake up one day and go, I want a job in client engagement or so forth. Yeah, but it happened. And yeah, I love what I do.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So I want to go back to something a little different. Sherpas, these are the guides that help you on the mountain. And most people, I would say 99% of the people that have summited Everest have done so with the help of Sherpas. So they're guides. And we all have guides and coaches in our lives. And if I bring that back to you, who have been the most important shapers or shaper in your journey to where you are today?
Wow, I never really thought about it, as a Sherpa, and I think that's like such a fantastic description, Sarah, or a way of thinking about it. Is your guide, to getting to your goal, achieving your dream. I think it's, yeah, it actually makes it it actually highlights the importance of the work that these people who actually stand beside us and behind us all day, without necessarily being front and center, the role that they play. So I like the description. So I can definitely say that I have many. I have been super fortunate. I think, look, just my husband's frankness and free. He never hesitates to give me free critique or feedback, as he calls it, has always been, like a constant a set of guidance for me, to take into account, but also the absolute lack of expectation that it's not setting direction for me. It's just feedback. And I think the almost the non-committal that came with the feedback is what actually made it play a role as strong guidance for me. So I think I'm fortunate enough to have that. And I have a very small but very strong group of people that I get guidance from about different things. So it's when I want to do something about breaking barriers or reaching a new summit, I can talk to you. I have friends who are not in corporate, and I can talk to about who I can talk to about some issue that or problem that I'm trying to solve, who just bring a very creative perspective to what I'm doing, or just a very human perspective to what I'm doing. And I'm very fortunate to have many of those people. I've had colleagues who have been who have freely given guidance to me along this journey. And so I think my answer to you is that I seek Sherpas, I accept them wherever I am. And I'm super grateful to say that I certainly have not done everything on my own. I've done it with the support and definitely the guidance of many.
Absolutely. I love how you put it. I love that. I want to go into contextualizing Zureida as well, right? You've had the privilege of getting involved in client engagement in your various roles previously. You alluded to it as well as an executive. There are many data-driven technologies developed in this arena, especially. This is to measure the response to clients, the behaviors. Is there still room for human instinct and intuition, given the recent advancement in this space?
Oh, it's my perspective, absolutely. Like I think that the opportunity that we have from all the digital advancement and the data and analytics and um, robotics and so forth is the fact that we can use these advances to do the stuff that is maybe more repetitive. And this is just a first step. So I'm not saying that that's where we should stop, but we can use all of these advances to firstly lighten the load. So do the stuff that can be automated easily, and so that we can use human talent to do the stuff that requires more creativity, the stuff that requires more integration, the stuff that requires more personalization. When I talk about personalization there, I'm not talking about data. I'm talking about a personal human touch. And so I actually think that technology plays a role in allowing people to play more of this human role, and to make um, um, it more of a human experience. Because I think that products and services and so forth, they can be copied, but experiences, I think, are what's going to count a lot in business. And I think, that line about it's not about what you did, it's about how you made me feel. I think that this allows us, the advances in technology allow us to focus on that experience. So maybe that's the first point I'll make. The second point I'll make, which is maybe slightly different from using technology only to do the automated type of stuff, or the repetitive type of stuff, or the high labor intense type of stuff, is that imagine the power of like using this intelligent computing plus human creativity, and putting those two things together. So I just I'm a multiplier by nature. I think about how we can put things together and get more and more and more. And so I don't I for now I'm not I don't see a threat. I just see opportunity to make the outcome or the output better, because we have all of this technology. So I'm just really excited about the opportunity to use technology to improve what we do, as people.
Absolutely. I like that. People always remember how you made them feel. That's really important, quite key. So the pandemic, has altered predictable behaviors, and all of a sudden there's uncertainty. There's the new normal, both for people as individuals, communities, as well as businesses. Yeah. Client services has not been immune to these changes. So as an executive, what value systems have you developed or did you develop during this time to ensure that you don't only survive as an organization, but thrive?
So I think, Sarah, the first thing for me, I'm going to talk about my experience and my learnings through this time is that I think the first thing is that like we're going through extraordinary times. It is definitely not normal. It is by any stretch of the imagination extraordinary. And so my view is that we have needed extraordinary um, compassion and extraordinary flexibility and extraordinary openness during this time to navigate things. So that's where I'll start, is that I think that just the first thing in terms of navigating the change was that there was no blueprint. No one had been through this before. We couldn't have we couldn't have a management meeting and say, okay, can the people who have been around longer please tell us, what to do now? Like no one knew what to do, and so one had to be open and one had to be curious and in touch and one had to be responsive. So you had to learn and you had to listen and then you had to learn and then you needed to act. And that's really it's been a cycle of that. But when I talk about extraordinary compassion, I think some people have dealt with things better than others. I think some people's circumstances. I remember when 3 days into lockdown and we had 100% of people working remotely, and some of us had enough space to add a desk to our bedrooms or change a spare bedroom into an office, but others didn't. There were, I remember calls with someone sitting at their kitchen counter and like kids in the background hopping up and down. And we had to be patient and we had to be compassionate and we had to be flexible around some of the things that we were less flexible about before. And we had to learn through it. And I'm not saying that we didn't need to come up with new rules of engagement. We certainly did. But we had to do it together. And we had to do it in a way that's was trusting that everyone just wanted to make this work, and believe that we were going to. So I would say that certainly, just like appreciating how extraordinary the times we were in was probably one of the first things that I came to learn and appreciate. I think another one is that very quickly I learned that, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's and actually it's a multi-day marathon. It's not, we're not gonna get this done in as quickly as we all had thought or hoped, or is that I kept waiting for this to end so that we can get back to what we were doing, and really believe that at some stage something was gonna go back. And actually, at some stage, I had to appreciate that, the 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 circumstances that we found ourselves in were going to last longer, and therefore this approach that we were choosing needed to last, but also, importantly, our energy, our stamina, our patience, the flexibility I spoke about. We needed to make sure that we were refueling along the way, because this is going to be a long run. And so I think that was something else that I came to appreciate, that it's going to be a while. I think maybe the last thing I'll say is that I think the realization that the world is counting on us, and that we all have something to contribute. So it was a time to, especially in a leadership role, it was a time to show up as a leader. There wasn't anyone else who was going to do it for you, or figure it out for you, or and it was a time for us to just to show up, To realize also that everyone has a contribution to make, so those are, some of my reflections when I think back on this time.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for that answer and some of the insights and your reflections. Um, the I believe that not just yourself as a leader, many leaders have had to make choices based on what is happening and what they have around them. With the new normal, that up to now is not looking like it's the new normal. It is the normal, you know. So let me start by congratulating you on the new role that you're moving into very soon as the COO of Old Mutual. So you'll soon be crossing the floor from Momentum Metropolitan Holdings, where you were one of the board members, and into this new role. What experiences from MMH and other previous roles will inform your new role?
Thanks, Sarah. I'm really excited about this new chapter, and yeah, I've spent 17 awesome years at Momentum Metropolitan. It really has been incredible, just in terms of the opportunities, the learning, and the growth that I've experienced, and equally the opportunity that I have had to make a contribution to the business and to the clients of Momentum Metropolitan. So I'm really looking forward to this new chapter. But I think Momentum Metropolitan was my first role in financial services. Before that, I worked in telecoms, and I think everything I've learned about financial services then, and the love for the work that I spoke about earlier was actually developed here. It's here where I found my passion to really make a difference in people's financial lives, and I think that my lessons extend beyond the work that I do, but also to the how of the work that I do. I think I've learned the value of like being surrounded by the right people, and I've learned the value of instilling the right culture in an environment in order to be able to achieve the goals that you set out for yourself. Um, um, I've I've I I've learned how to get things wrong and start again. I've learned about working on like fixing existing businesses and processes, and equally I've learned how to start new exciting things. Um, I've but it's also the place where I developed my passion for not just for moving beyond selling products and services to clients, to really helping clients achieve the outcomes that they set. And I take all of these lessons with me to be able to go do more of it. And I think, really, it's when people ask me like, why now? I just go, well, after 17 years,
Why not?
Exactly.
I love that. So we almost coming to the end of the chat, which I've enjoyed thoroughly. But I wouldn't go without asking, one of the things that I've learned about you, that I've experienced, is why is empowering women your passion, and how did it manifest in your career until now?
Thanks, Sarah. So, I think this is a nice one to end off with, because it very much links to the question you asked me right at the get-go, to talk about my background and why my family values and so forth. And as I told you, I grew up in a family of mostly women, of mostly girls, and in a family where I believe that, everything was possible for women, and that women were as powerful as men. Women were as capable as men. And so but when I ventured out into the world, I realized that, well, that's not necessarily how it works outside of my household, and so I just couldn't understand it. It's not, I couldn't understand the reasons because I never experienced it. And I think that so it became something that I was deeply passionate at supporting. How can we make sure that we women have the opportunity to progress as much, as often, and as far as men do. And so it became, something that I'm particularly passionate about. And I think that as equally passionate about that, I realized, as I was about seeing women advance, whether it be in business or in any other endeavor, I think I realized the role that education played in my life, in order to do this. And so I'm equally passionate about seeing, about supporting education, because I really believe that education, like it takes us a long way to creating opportunities, opening doors, leveling the playing field, and helping us, do what we can.
Absolutely. It is the equalizer. I'm equally passionate about education. I believe it's the greatest gift that we can leave to the next generation. This podcast was born out of me getting worried about what COVID was doing to people out there, how people were thinking they're on their own, all the successful people, they are special. Um, but it's also highlighting that successful people have also fallen at some point, and risen up and showed up differently to show us their success, their summit pictures, just like my journey, through Everest. So describe your best challenge or failure, whatever you want to call it, and how it propelled you forward as our last question.
Oh, Sarah, this is like, which one do I choose? you know, is I've fallen and failed as many times as I've been successful, and so I've had many lessons.
Yeah.
But so instead of maybe choosing, the one that I have found some failures harder than others. And I, so instead of talking about like maybe the one failure, I'm going to tell you what I learned about this failure, about failure in general,
Yeah.
is that I think my biggest learning is that things go wrong. If they don't go wrong, you really can't be trying hard enough. Is if you're not failing, what are you learning? I often I think about the example that and I think about my son, and he used to come back every week. So he used to go to chess club, after school, as part of school and so forth. And like every week for the whole year, he kept coming home. Oh, I won, I won, I won, I won. And eventually I said to him, well, can you just quit chess? Because you're clearly learning nothing. Is if so either you're not playing in an environment that stretches you. You're not playing with competitors who match your ability, or like something's not right. You've got to figure it out, because what do you learn from success? So I followed up the question with like, okay, what happened? I won. What did you learn? Nothing. Well, so my question was, what's the point? Like, why do it? And so I'm when I think about it, I think failure is it's part of life. I think that like, I think that we need to become, I certainly think in business, we need to become more comfortable with failure. I don't think that failing has ever been easy. I think I do take my work very personally. So, I felt it deeply. And very personally every time something I was trying to do didn't work. But I think we need to become more comfortable with it, so that we can encourage faster progress. So the lessons that I've learned is we have to make it okay, for people to get things wrong. And obviously, I'm not talking about irresponsible behavior or negligent behavior or not enough effort or anything like that. But I think that when people are trying to do things that haven't been done before, especially, or trying to do things that are rather complex, or the circumstances are rather different, I think we have to be we have to, like, do what we need to do to encourage people to take the next step, because I think progress is not possible without it. So I think maybe that's the first one. The second learning, which is probably like the hardest learning for me, is that, like, if you're going to fail, like, just do it fast. So, like, it can be really painful when you stretch the pain out over a really long period of time. So I think that has been one of my biggest learnings, is like, it's fail, but do it quickly. So limit the pain. Yeah, limit the pain, and move on.
Yeah.
And I think that has been like a really, like, tough lesson, because I think that, like, one can also become comfortable with things not working if you allow the thing that's gone wrong to, it can almost, that can become the status quo for a while, and that's not a nice place to be. So either it becomes like more acceptable, or you're really miserable for a really long time. And I think that so the point is, like, do it, but do it quickly, move on, um and just focus on the next step to get yourself out of it, and hold your head up high with the lessons that you've learned. And my last one is probably just own it, is own it, and allow others to own it, so I think it's so my learning is that we all say, like, we want to work in an environment where, we allow others to fail, and so forth, but we genuinely have to become good at failing.
Yes.
So I think we have to it's something that we have to become better at it. And so if we really want to break barriers, if we really want to trailblaze and go places where others have not gone, if we really want to innovate, then we've got to get better at failing. That's my perspective on it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and the insights. Fail quickly, get up and move on, and own it is something that I picked up from your last response. Thank you, Zureida, for making time to share your insights and your life's journey. And once again, congratulations on the new phase that you're going to take with All Mutual. And we wish you all the best, and God bless.
Thanks, Sarah. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm very happy to have had the chance to, share some of my learnings with you and your audience.
Fantastic. There we go, viewers and listeners. That was Zureida Ebrahim, touching on everything, including service as a virtue. And this is because it's there.